Well, this is something that the company that is going to be involved in the development of the centre will be dealing with. They will be providing power for the purposes of the centre. As I understand it, the proposal will be that the power source will be entirely renewable. I'm very excited about the possibility of a facility in Gibraltar being independently powered on a totally sustainable source of energy. And of course, I very much look forward to seeing the announcement by Pelagos of how they're going to do that. I'm already aware of what it is that they're proposing, but they will be making the technical detail available as they've announced in the early part of 2026.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people will be wanting to see that. We've had renewable alternatives in the past and these have been negligible. Their effect has been negligible. LNG is still a fossil fuel which has an environmental impact. So, I mean, the press release doesn't really sell it.
Well, I don't think the press release is designed to sell it, and no one is trying to sell anything here other than the concept of the potential to do something at a commercial level, which is completely different to what a government might be able to do. Look, a government is limited by the territorial extent of the territory that it governs. A corporate entity is not. A corporate entity is able to source energy beyond the frontiers of the place in which it may be involved, or indeed to generate energy in the context of what it may be able to do for a much smaller footprint than the government may be able to provide for. So, for example, the government might be able to entirely independently find the energy for a facility. We might be able to totally independently power a facility like a sporting facility at Europa, but we wouldn't be able to power the whole of Gibraltar in that way, which is what our obligation, our statutory obligation is. Here you're dealing with a commercial entity that's able to have much more leeway in the way that it approaches providing its own sustainable power.
If I can quote Sir Joe from the statement, AI requires data, processing power and energy resources on a scale never seen before. So you're saying this is a commercial venture, but of course it's in Gibraltar. Are we saying that the financial and economic benefits outweigh your green agenda?
Far from it. This is the opposite. What we're saying is that there is a future in which the economic development of Gibraltar can go hand in hand with a sustainable way of delivering that in partnership with commercial entities, without the government itself having to be the source of energy that is provided to the commercial operators, because the government, as you pointed out, did, in my view, of course, an excellent job in moving away from diesel to LNG, which is less noxious in terms of pollution, but is still a fossil fuel, still heats the planet. But to find a way of powering the industry of the future, which is AI, without having to rely on the government as a source of energy and finding its own sustainable way. And the one thing that I think everybody in Gibraltar would agree on in relation to Sir Joe is that he has been able to see around the corner and beyond the horizon in economic terms since the 1970s when he first became active in Gibraltar politics. And therefore, I'd have great regard for what Joe is saying in that particular quote.
Chief Minister, but as you say, Sir Joe is looking after the financial and economic benefits of Gibraltar. We're talking about the environment here. A data centre takes up a lot of power. It's active travel month. The government is asking people to walk to work, putting the onus on the individual, and yet backing a data centre?
Well, but backing a data centre, because that data centre is going to be powered from a renewable source of energy, which is not going to be involved in heating the planet, doing exactly what the government's environmental agenda is. And if I can just correct you in one particular regard, Christine, you'll know that Sir Joe's speeches at budget time have concentrated even beyond economics and even beyond public finance on one thing, and that's the environment. He has been very clear in the last contributions that he has made in the budget that the key thing affecting all of our well-beings is the environment. He's made that very clear in all of his budget speeches. And this manages to mesh our concerns for the environment and our desire to see Gibraltar's economy develop, not just now for the term that I have left as Chief Minister and the future terms that I'm sure the GSLP will be in government for. This is beyond that. This is an economic development beyond that. As Joe says, this is like the investment in fibre and Gib Telecom in the early 1990s. This is an investment for generations, for decades, with a commercial partner, sourcing energy in a way that does not create the problems that you would have if it were the government of Gibraltar providing the energy using our current existing generating capacity using LNG.
A big development. Just explain where exactly it's going to go, because it looks like it's going to be in an already saturated area where you've actually announced more housing.
Well, the exact area is well known to the government. We're trying to define the extent of it. It will not require reclamation. It is not an area that is presently earmarked for anything else. The planning process will identify exactly how this is going to fit into the whole area, where the government's done a lot of work in that already. All of these pieces will come together, and as the company itself has said, you can expect all of the technical detail to be set out in glorious technicolor, so to speak, in early 2026.
This isn't a manifesto commitment. Has there been any consultation, or it's been presented as a fait accompli?
Well, this is not a manifesto commitment in itself. It is part of the development of the National Economic Plan and the context of how we want to develop Gibraltar's economy, to reach out to entrepreneurs in this space. In this case, they've also come to us, identifying Gibraltar as a place in which to locate their business, and Gibraltar is very welcoming of that. I mean, you're not for one moment suggesting, I know, that the government is limited to doing the things set out in its manifesto. The government must do the things set out in its manifesto, but is also welcoming of new proposals put to it, which fit in with how the government has set out to the public in its manifesto. We want to see Gibraltar develop socio-economically, and particularly in this space, not just economically, but also in the context of how we develop digitally and what services we offer from Gibraltar. This is a hugely exciting proposition that can attract as users, for the purposes of the AI and data center facilities, the sorts of companies that are the companies that we read about in the financial press every day, and are the companies that are changing the world. We need those companies in Gibraltar. This is a great opportunity to have that synergy, and I'm delighted that my government's able to deliver it.